Welcome to the U.S. Women's National Team Breakdown Show. I'm your host, Ruby Pinto, social media creative and host of the Soccer Over Gotham podcast. I'll be covering the U.S. Women's National Team games with special guests. In this episode, we'll give our thoughts and takeaways on the U.S. Women's National Team's 3-0 win against Vietnam. We'll see who the fans thought was the player of the match and answer your questions. I am joined by the producer, editor, and my co-host of Soccer Over Gotham, Gary Gibson. Our guest tonight is none other than the voice of Gotham FC for MSG Networks. Welcome to the show, Renee Washington.
Thank you, Ruby. Thank you, Gary. It's a pleasure being here. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what have you been up to, Renee?
Like everybody else, watching all the excitement that is happening in sports, specifically the soccer world, and loving every single second of it.
Yes.
Yes, the World Cup season. And for real, like, how is everyone's sleep schedule with this World Cup? Like, I've been watching most of the games on replay because I cannot stay up or wake up at 1 a.m., 3 a.m.
That's what I've been doing. I mean, between the Challenge Cup games, the MLS, the World Cup games, I am like trying to balance all of it. So I've been also watching it on replay and understanding that there's going to be spoilers. I know the results. Like I woke up and I knew the result of Brazil's win, but I still want to see it happen and see how it unfolds. So I've been watching replays, except for the games that are a little bit earlier, like a 9-10 o'clock, like the U.S. women's game. I was able to watch that live, but I was still struggling, honestly.
Yeah, I just hope everybody is ready that my entire personality for this next month is all U.S. Women's National Team and Gotham FC. That's all I want to talk about this next month to anybody.
I love it.
For real.
So, yeah.
But let's move to team news. Any national team news that we can talk about, or any thoughts in the tournament so far, Renee?
I've been just enjoying watching. Well, we only had one game so far that we've been able to see what the mixture of the youth and the veterans and how that was going to look. It's been fun to watch for the U.S. Women's National Team, how they were working back in Rose Lavelle and Megan Rapinoe, who have been injured. It was great to see that players like Alyssa Thompson got some minutes. And then, of course, we all held our breath in the beginning when Trinity Rodman went down. And we're like, no way, not in under a minute. Yep. Is she down?
Too soon.
It's way too soon. But then, like, players like Sophia Smith and, Germa, and you just watch all the way through. Yeah. And Julie Ertz and her role as a center back. It was nice to see the blend of what Vlatko Andonovski's been doing with the team. And I'm interested to see how it'll continue. What people don't realize is it's a long World Cup tournament, but it's quick at the same time. Like, you have to make adjustments on the fly as players' health or just how their gelling may evolve of who's starting versus coming off the bench. So for the game Wednesday, I'm just happy to see what's next. Is it going to be the same 11 that starts? Is it going to be something different? What's Coach going to do?
Yeah. And yeah, you're right about that. It's a month long, but at the same time, it's short. It's not like a regular NWSL season where it's months and months and you can like change it next week or the next week or whatever. Right now, you have like days or even in the same game, you have to make changes. So I do agree with you with that. What about you, Gary?
Yeah, it's a balance, and you have to get so many things right to get through a short tournament that's, back-to-back games essentially. But my whole philosophy on this tournament is if it's not the US, I'm rooting for all the underdogs. Like, I want to see Nigeria get a point. I want to see Ireland get a point off Canada. I love that Jamaica got a point off of France. Amazing. I want to see teams that have never scored a goal before score a goal. I love rooting for all the underdogs, and just because the storylines are so much better to me.
Yeah, definitely.
I do too. I was gonna say I don't like to see 4-5-0 games. I want to see an early goal happen. I want to see we've seen a ton of PKs, which has been wild, and some great penalty kick saves, which also has made it that much more exciting. But I want to see something different. Surprise us.
Exactly.
Yes,
all right, so let's move to the game breakdown. So going into this matchup, USA enters on a 9-game win streak, having bested Wales, Ireland twice, Brazil, and Japan in their last 5. It is interesting to note that the U.S. has not scored more than 2 goals in their past 6 contests. On the other side, Vietnam is one of 8 newcomers to the tournament. To qualify, they had to endure a round-robin playoff with Thailand and Chinese Taipei. Both Chinese Taipei and Vietnam bested Thailand, but Taipei had beaten Thailand to a greater margin, meaning only a win would get Vietnam through. Vietnam went ahead 2-1 with about half hour to go and held on to qualify for their first World Cup. Amazing. Vietnam enters the tournament on the back of a 2-1 loss to Germany and a 7-0 loss to France. Here are some injuries. The U.S. women's national team, it is at full health heading into its opening match of the World Cup in New Zealand against Vietnam. Rose Lavelle, Megan Rapinoe, and Julie Ertz all will be available for the match.
This is where it gets like really interesting. I know there's so many thoughts about the lineup. So let's just go through it. Obviously, Alyssa Nair is in goal. Mm-hmm. Emily Fox is out to the right. Julie Ertz is in center back. Naomi Girma is with center back. Crystal Dunn is out to the left. Savannah DeMello, Andy Sullivan, and Lindsay Horan make up that three midfield. And then Trinity Rodman, Alex Morgan, and Sophia Smith across the front. Any thoughts on this lineup, Renee?
Honestly, I posted about it, and I know I had some people saying stuff back because they were like, well, how are we going to change the lineup? It's still so early. And it goes back to my comment earlier where you don't have a large room for error. And I think for me, the first thing that has to change is Rose Lavelle, if she's at 100%, needs to be in the starting lineup. You saw the immediate impact she made on the game as soon as she came in. She's an attacking mind. I think that Lindsay Horan has that too, but Lindsay Horan's more of a balanced midfielder where she picks and chooses her spots when she wants to get forward, whereas Rose Lavelle is truly an attacking midi that likes to get into the box, get shots, get crosses, make overlapping runs, and sometimes will be the highest or widest player. So I think the midfield was honestly one of the major areas that I felt like the U.S. was dropping off. And I think that's why I know there were comments on the broadcast about like needing to pass the ball better or needing to have better chemistry, but the midfield creates that chemistry. So they're the ones that can facilitate and set up for whoever the forwards are. If it's Sophia Smith, Alex Morgan, and Trinity Rodman to start, you need a midfield group that's going to help them get into more dangerous areas. And I felt like a lot of balls they were receiving were higher up the field with their back to goal and not really in good positions to combine. But I thought Rose Lavelle immediately made an impact. And then another change that there's two, but one that I think it's iffy. I actually loved Julie Ertz at center back, but I love Julie Ertz in the midfield. And I think that center back is a role, if you have someone steady and consistent in what maybe an Alana Cook can do. I know it's tough. She's young. It's her first World Cup along with Naomi Girma. That's a lot of pressure to put on two young center backs. I get that. But I wonder how much it's hurting the midfield. And I think that the midfield was good. Like, I don't have – the hard part is they weren't awful. But also was Vietnam, though. No offense. But I'm thinking bigger opponents, I think you're going to need to have a stronger midfield core that can control the tempo. And I'd love to see Rose Lavelle, Lindsay Horan, and Julie Ertz in the midfield and see what happens. I mean, if you're attacking more, you don't really hold your breath as much about the defensive side. Like, I almost wonder if it's too defensive to have Ertz in the back versus pushing her up. She started – I mean, the first goal that happened and all the goals she was involved with in some way of capacity, but you just see how she's making passes from center back. Now can we get her higher up the field, sitting in as a holding midfielder, but making those same passes 20 yards higher up. So those are the two main changes that I think I would love to see happen.
Yeah, and let's not forget that a total of 6 players in the starting lineup are experiencing their first World Cup appearance. DeMello, Girma, Fox, Sullivan, Rodman, Smith. Some look more confident than others, like Rodman and Smith. They did great out there. And I think it's just an exciting moment for them. And we're just eager to see all of them play.
My 100-foot take on this roster was this is a confidence building roster. Honestly, for a lot of teams, you have a starting 11 and you ride that starting 11 from the beginning, first game to the end. But I felt like for a lot of this roster, this was about confidence. If you're looking at like Alyssa Nair in goal, she has not had a good club form. It's not her fault. Right. Chicago has just been pretty poor, but she's had a lot of goals scored on her. So this was just about her getting back in the flow, getting back into confidence again. I think it was for DeMello, because it's her first World Cup. Get her out there, let her get some minutes against Vietnam, get those jitters out, knock those rust off, and let's get out there. Same thing with Rodman. Get her out there, get her legs under her, let her play, so let her forget what that environment's like, what it feels like. Because the rest of these players that were left off, like Lavelle, they've been there before. You can plug them in and they're ready to go right away. But I think a lot of these players, even with Ertz at center back, maybe they need her down the road.
Right.
Maybe they were just building her confidence at center back there. But I think, as you said, Renee, she was probably our best offensive player outside of Sophia Smith. So I would like to see her higher up the field. And I think Cook is experienced enough that I think this should have been her tournament. I think Germa and her are a good partnership, and that is who I would have pushed. But again, we'll get to that later. But again, I feel like this was all about building confidence, and it really wasn't about building cohesion, because obviously, as we saw, cohesion was not there.
And I would love to have seen Cook get some minutes against Vietnam. I think that's a great game to get her out there in the second half and get her some time alongside Germa, because that chemistry for center backs is very important, and with their keeper. So I do think that that's the one thing that I would have done differently. I don't know which substitution. It was great seeing Alyssa Thompson out there. Maybe she's one you don't put in. Instead, you put in Alana Cook. I have no idea. I mean, there's only so many substitutions you can make. But I do think that what we saw as the game progressed was, with players like Megan Rapinoe, Roosevelt coming in, exactly as you talked about, Gary, the confidence is already there. The chemistry is already there. So they're combining with Haran, and it's seamless. And so you do need to sprinkle in some of the veterans, I think, a little bit more down the road as we get into, even actually, I should say, next game, because I think that'll help with that cohesion piece, to have a mixture of the youth, the veterans, the experience, and I think that'll overall be a huge difference maker.
All right, so is there any overall thoughts of the game that you had, just your overall takeaway?
Give them time. Even though I'm saying make changes, let's not be so quick to just throw this team, away and assume they're not going to go far and they're not good enough. The teams the last two World Cups had a very similar roster, 2015 to 2019. And you had some very big names that were leading that roster. You want to think about having a Carly Lloyd out there. I mean, these are key pieces that you're missing. It's going to take time, but I'm so tired of the people that are ready to just say the next generation's not good enough and this, that. They're very talented. Let's give them time to work in to be the next legacy of U.S. women's soccer.
Yes, agree. What about you, Ruby?
Definitely, I agree with that. But I also, overall, in this game, I think there were lots of missed opportunities from the team. And like you said, the midfield is where it builds up from. And I saw a lot of missed opportunities there. This game could have ended really different. It could have been a much, much different game, probably 6-0, but it was only a 3-0 game. And like you said, give them time. Yeah, we have to give them time. It was the first game. First game usually is kind of like get the nerves out, because this is the first game in the World Cup. And especially being in this team, the U.S. women's national team, there's a lot of pressure from media, from the fans, from everyone, because they have to perform, because they're coming from a back-to-back winning championships for the World Cup. So I know they feel the pressure.
Yeah, I agree. And going to what you said, Renee, I think that it's always a balance. And for me, I like youth development. I like watching players progress, and I like watching players add skills to their arsenal in real time, and I love watching that. And I always question whether the U.S. and women's national team does enough to make that gap seamless as far as getting the youth players up to that level, because it seems like sometimes it's just they rely too heavily on the veterans and don't give the young players enough minutes, because it's a balancing act, as you said. So that's one of my thoughts. But I think on this game itself, this is my first takeaway was this is not the team that beat Thailand 10, 12, 13, nothing. This lineup had a lot of players that haven't played together before, and it looked like it. I think the aggression and the wantingness to finish was only showed by Sophia Smith as far as this game is concerned. This isn't a lineup that's going to just kill you. It's going to be a lineup that's going to beat you methodically, which is fine. But that killer instinct was not there in this game. I think they could have done a lot more with what they had.
Yeah.
Do we have any individual player notes, Renee?
I think the one thing that I'd like to also see is Megan Rapinoe and how she continues to progress. And I got flack for that too, because I said, honestly, I think Megan Rapinoe, when you are progressing in the tournament, needs to be in the starting lineup. Why? She's got that killer instinct. She's not afraid to take a shot from 35 yards out. She's not afraid to get a cross in. And I think Trinity Rodman is the player, if you you have to pick someone that's not on the out of that three of Morgan, Smith, and Rodman. I think Rodman coming off the bench, you start Megan Rapinoe. I think Trinity Rodman's a tremendous player and also has goal scoring ability, but I just think that next level finisher mentality that we see in Megan Rapinoe will be great in a starting role to set the tone. And now you bring in Trinity Rodman, who's going to have fresh legs, run at defenders, get some services, get some shots in. I think that'll be a greater adjustment to make. So I love overall Megan Rapinoe, Julie Ertz's role to change, Roosevelt to be out there more, and definitely Alana Cook in the back. And I think this is where we're going to see the turn of the tide of more chemistry, goal score, that ruthlessness in the attacking third, and definitely that cohesion and chemistry in terms of just how they're combining up the field versus it being a lot of sent balls or just turning and going and taking players on 1v1.
Agreed.
For me, I think it would be Alex Morgan. Let's not forget that Alex Morgan here, it's now considered a veteran because she's had World Cup experience, but also now she has to compete for her position because there's a lot of young talent out there. We have Alyssa Thompson, we have Smith, we have Rodman, now we have Williams into the mix. So I mean, my player note for her is like the missed penalty kick seems like to shake Alex Morgan a little bit. And I mean, despite her attempting to make up for it, she didn't get the opportunity to score. So I would like to see that confident Alex Morgan out there and do what she can do.
Agreed. So I want to go back to what you said, Renee, about Rapinoe. Few players in the world that can change a game like she can. She knows exactly when to put pace on the ball, when to take a foul, when to play the ball where. Few players that just put her in, she's going to change a game. And it's 99% of the time it's sort of positive. So I would love to see her come in more, especially earlier as a substitution if that's going to be the case. But I think Ertz, outside of Sophia Smith scoring goals, I think Ertz was very good on both sides of the ball. I think she was probably one of the best players that we had. I think she was 85% passing and 82% on long balls, 16 passes in the final third. She was involved in all the set pieces. For the people that said that maybe she's not ready, she's only played 1 or 2 minutes, some players are just ballers and they just get up to the moment. And she's one of those players who's always up for whatever it is. So good on Julie Ertz. And obviously, as a Gotham fan, I wanted to see Mewis and Williams get into this match. Very upset that they didn't get out there. O'Hara goes onto the field, and within 2 minutes, she's getting talked to by the ref for a rough tackle. She's pure aggression.
Loved it, though.
Pure aggression. So any takeaways that you have from this match?
I think that the movement needs to be better. And I felt like it was very straight in terms of the runs that were being made. And actually, Ruby, going back to your point about Alex Morgan, that was one of my areas that I felt like she should be one of the main ones leading that. Now, sometimes she doesn't play. She plays traditionally of just being the highest player, being on the last shoulder. But I'd love to see if it is going to, anytime it's her, Rodman, and Smith out there together, they are all able to play that target forward role. But you can't have 3 target forwards. Someone's got to be slashing across. Someone's got to be checking back and letting somebody run in behind them. Someone's got to be interchanging. And I think that dynamic movement was not really evident until we actually saw Megan Rapinoe come in, because she's not one that's going to just run at you the entire time. She'll let Crystal Dunn overlap her. She'll combine with different players. So I think the passing that everybody's wanting has to start with the movement that I don't think we really saw enough of. Roosevelt brought that. You saw her making runs. Lindsay Horan, again, picks and chooses her spot. So I think chemistry and combining doesn't just happen by just being the better team. You have to move. You have to work. And it felt at times there were too many players just kind of standing or making very straight, predictable runs. And a lot of the other games we've seen, actually, Brazil, Spain, you see their forwards are running off of each other, making great runs that are unbalancing your opponent. And you need to, as you progress, especially when we'll talk about winning another World Cup, winning the 3rd straight, making history, defenders are they've got you pegged. You have to throw something different at them. So I'd love to see more interchanging and just dynamic movements as the team progresses up the field, especially in the attacking third.
Yeah. Yeah. And going to your comment about Horan, I do agree with you about her. She picks and chooses. And sometimes, like, I feel like she cannot make up her mind. She makes too many extra passes. Well, she could have taken the shot and probably even scored, in my opinion. I do agree with you about Alex Morgan as well. And you know who could do that? Where you can, like, she could run back and defend at the same time? Lynn
Yes, she
Williams.
can.
She has the stamina for that. We've seen it with Gotham where she's done it, where she's on the other side of the box and then she comes running to defend and, and makes an amazing save. So I think Lynn Williams will be perfect for that. Hopefully we get to see her in the next game.
Yeah, I just want to say a shout out to the Vietnam keeper, Thon. It was obvious that the U.S. was just going to go lob balls in and rely on their athleticism. She was strong in getting a punch to almost every ball we sent in, and also saving a penalty against Alex Morgan in a World Cup is a moment that you can cherish. No one can ever take that away from you. She was one of the highest FOTMOB rated players of the match, despite giving up 3 goals. She had a fantastic match, and yeah, well done. Yeah, and getting back to, I say, confidence, this was the 32nd ranked team. The Netherlands is 9th. So I'm not sure if this was the right strategy, but I guess we're going to find out, how we bounce back, but take it to the next level against Netherlands. So going into next match, what changes would you like to see going in?
Yeah, well, I think the question mark against Vietnam was if this was going to be the starting lineup. Like, if this lineup was the one that Vlatko Andonovski was planning on going with moving forward. So I think the real question is this starting lineup going to be the same against Netherlands? And I imagine it won't. I think there might be a couple of changes. Again, it's still hard to me to put Alana Cook in. I think she's definitely ready. I would have loved to see her against Vietnam. So I'm interested to see their confidence in her, if they plug her into that starting role from the beginning, or if they, I don't know, have something else figured out. But I think the back line in general is okay. I think that I don't know. I like Emily Fox. I like Ertz in the back, but Crystal Dunn is just lights out. Naomi Gurma is just lights out. I still feel like the back line could be a little bit stronger. If it is going to be Ertz back there, so be it. And I don't know if it's Fox or not, to be honest. Kelly O'Hara, I still love it outside back. I don't care how many years she's played in the game and how many World Cups she's been to. I still love seeing her flying up and down the flank, whether it's Gotham or with the U.S. Women's National Team. But most importantly, if I'm making any change, the first one has to be Rose Lavelle coming into the starting lineup, and then from there, figure it out. But that's the one that to me is the most urgent need that has to happen.
I agree with all that. Ruby, do you have any questions?
You see in this tournament now, everyone is looking at Sophia Smith. Since before the World Cup started, everyone's looking at Sophia Smith. She's having a great season with the Portland Thorns. And, she came into this game really confident. And she says that she came in and she was having fun. And we all could tell she was having fun. She scored 2 goals and assists. And now the question would be, can Sophia Smith do it again? Can she keep scoring and, even get the golden boot?
Sophia Smith is an interesting player. She has what every good striker in the world has, is she never saw a shot she didn't like. And in their first season, she was taking shots whether they were 5 people in front of her, 3 people in front of her. She's just getting shots off and she's getting them on target, which is the most important thing to do. I know it sounds very simplistic, but getting shots on target is the most important thing for a striker. And the first season, it was a bit selfish of her to take so many shots and in the spots that she took them in. However, she now in her second season I think she's leading the league in assists at this point. So she's rounding out her game. She's not only a lethal striker, but she's involving other players into the attack. And she's becoming an undeniable, probably one of the best strikers that we've ever seen on this national team. She's a killer. I'm excited about it.
Yeah. I was a goal scorer, and I don't think enough people realize just how different the mentality is. Anybody can score goals, but not everybody's a goal scorer. There's a difference. And I think Sophia Smith is a true goal scorer. And so there's going to be times she takes a shot where people think she should make the pass. That's just how it goes. That's in any sport. But that's what makes her, able to finish even her second goal. That was just a broken play, but without hesitation, she puts it in the back of the net. Whereas someone else might have tried to take a touch or get a better shooting angle. So I think Sophia Smith has that killer instinct. She's got the size. She's able to hold balls up. She makes good runs. And you do see, as you're talking about, Gary, the evolution of her balancing that out with also getting assists, also getting crosses, whatever it takes to help her team. But I think she's definitely one of the top players that we have to keep an eye on, and it has shown so far.
Yeah, agree. So, Ruby, do you have any stats that jump out at you from this game?
Yeah, so in this game, the US had 28 total shots. They had 10 big chances and 8 big chances missed. Like I said, this game had a lot of missed chances. Again, this game could have ended differently, but great stats. What about you?
I say my stat is 0 in its defense. Vietnam had 0 shots, 0 chances, 0 crosses, 0 touches inside the 18, 0.0 expected goals. Obviously, you can't lose if your opponent can't score. So only 26 passes in our half. Very well done on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, that's tough. But they block Alex Morgan's penalty.
Yeah, shout out to that keeper. Vietnam is going to be one of those teams that's going to put 7-8 players in the box at all times, and it's going to be tough to get through them. And Sophia's second goal went through the legs of 2 different people on the way to goal. It's what you got to do. Get it on target. There it is.
Yeah.
Over on Twitter at OverGothamPod, that's where you can follow us. Fans chose Smith as the player of the match. Thanks to all the fans who voted. Renee, do you agree?
2 goals and an assist, absolutely, in her debut, without a doubt. Julie Ertz would definitely be the backup, or honestly, it's Tan. It's Vietnam's keeper who's really was the biggest competition for player of the match, but we don't pick from the losing team. But honestly, it is Sophia Smith, and then I do think on the defensive end, as we keep talking about Julie Ertz, all those zeros, you have to credit her, a big part of that. And just the back line in general, that we didn't see Alyssa Nair at all, even on our screen, until we passed back to her like 40 minutes into the game. So to be able to, although maybe you can say with just 3 goals, we didn't get the job done offensively, but you can say the team also got the job done by getting not only the shutout, but keeping them to 0 across any attacking chances. So Sophia Smith and the defense.
There you go.
Nair touched the ball at the 36th minute. I tweeted about it that day. I was like, 36th minute, Nair touches the ball. But yeah. I mean, I agree with the fans. I agree with Renee. Smith is the player of the match. Again, 2 goals and assist. She was just brilliant out there. What about you, Gary?
I agree. She's having fun out there. So let's get to some Gotham FC player updates. Renee, do you have any updates on Anna Manu?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. She did fantastic in the game with Nigeria. I mean, they tied Canada. I watched that game in live time, actually, because it was a reasonable time of day. We saw them open up with a tie against Canada, and she was the main offensive threat. There was a lot coming down the left flank with her. We haven't seen her in a Gotham jersey as much this season as we would like. And so it was great to see her back out there. She looks good. She's moving well. She was creating corners for them and crosses and shots, and was the most dangerous player offensively for Nigeria. So I'm excited to see her bring that back to Gotham, because Gotham has had key players injured, as we've known throughout the course of the season. And it's great to see them working back in, whether it's Kristen Edmonds getting back in the Challenge Cup game or Iffy in the World Cup. So I was like, all right, Gotham, look at Iffy out there representing for the team.
She was in a deeper role than she usually is. She was playing that like Lynn Williams midfield type role, but she was really good connecting the defense to the offense. She was for her 60 minutes that she was out there, she was one of the better players on the pitch, and I think she's growing into the game. And I think she's got a bright future in this tournament. I think she's going to make some waves. And this is what we talked about earlier. I love seeing teams like Nigeria get a point from Canada. I love it.
Yeah. I don't know why, but I love like their lime green jerseys.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I like it.
I started to tweet that out because I'm like, these jerseys are fire. They look so nice.
Yeah.
And especially in like the sun. Look, I'm all about having a flashy kit, and I loved that green, that lime green, plus the fact that they tied Canada, which to many people was an upset, but I thought they deserved every bit of that tie with how well they played.
I know. If not, just ask Tobin Heath how she feels about Canada.
It's true.
Exactly.
So Ruby, you got an update on Farrelly?
Yes, I do have an update on Farrelly. She played, first of all, she was in the starting lineup for Ireland amazing. Again, we've been talking about her story in the show, and it's amazing that this is, she's going to her first World Cup. She comes back after 6 years of not like playing soccer, and she gets 63 minutes into the game, and she had 28 touches into the game. She really helped her team out there. Even though they didn't win, they really, really fought till the end. The last like 20 minutes of the game, for a second, I really thought they were going to find that equalizer and get that point against Australia. But it was amazing. And I have a fun fact about Sinead here. Sinead she actually learned the national anthem before being called up for Ireland. And I quote here, this is what she said: "I just think it's important. When I'm out there with the girls, they are so loud and proud singing it. And I just think it's part of being on the team and showing my commitment and devotion to this."
Aww.
Yeah, it's like she's never left. She's incredible. She was one of the best players on the pitch. Obviously, her story is amazing, and the fact that she's still writing it, it's going to be incredible when she's done. And I wish her all the best. And I was really hoping for Ireland to get a point from this game. I want to keep them in there because that's a group of death. So I think they can get out of it, but they just got to get some luck.
Yeah, it was great to see her out there buzzing around. I mean, that's what we love to see her on the field doing with Gotham. Just so aggressive, making good runs, getting the tackles. And I love the fact that she's just enjoying doing it and representing Ireland.
Yeah. All right, on to Bernina. Bernina came in as a substitute in a 4-0 win over Panama. 23 touches, 4 clearances, 80% passing. Brazil has a big game coming up against France, who surprisingly drew Jamaica. That's what we're talking about. 0-0, making it really tough in that group. And that's going to be a really, really big game. I can't wait to watch that one. Let's get over to standings. We have the United States still at the top of the group with 3 points. Netherlands also with 3 points, but on goal differential, US is up. Portugal and Vietnam are at 0 points. They both lost, but Vietnam had the lower goal differential, so they're on the bottom of the group. Any thoughts on where the United States stands in this group, Renee?
It's a good spot to be at the top of the standings. I know everybody said with that 3-0, they didn't do enough to maybe get those, there's tiebreakers if it does come down to that. I say if you just win every game, you don't have to worry about the tiebreakers. So keep keeping a 0 in the loss column, and that's the most important part of those standings, and you're good to go.
Yeah. I mean, so far they are where everyone's expecting them to be, the first spot. But then again, they have Netherlands next, which, there's going to be like that game going against Netherlands is going to be tough for them. So hopefully they can stay on the top there. So yeah, top is good.
Yeah. I think obviously it's a good spot to be in, and I think U.S. could possibly seal their fate by beating Netherlands in a big way. If they can do that, they're through. Speaking of the Netherlands, this is the biggest game of the group stage. USA comes into this one on a 10-win game streak, 4 wins in their last 4 against the Netherlands, the last one going to penalties. Netherlands is entering after an opening 1-0 win over Portugal, scoring on an early corner and then just dictating the game from there. What are your thoughts on this matchup, Renee?
This is what we love to see. I mean, obviously Netherlands, like many teams, actually, I don't know that there's any team that doesn't have bad blood against the U.S. from getting beat in the past at some point. But this is a team that's, like I keep talking about, is hungry to knock the U.S. off. Everybody wants to be the team that can knock them off that number 1 spot. And Netherlands is very talented. And, you look at the Portugal game, but you got to look at it through with a grain of salt, because they're going to come out completely different against the U.S. This is a championship game for them. And everybody's going to come out against the U.S. with that feeling of this being a championship game. So I'm excited for it. I'm looking forward to seeing just, again, the adjustments in terms of lineup, but also how in a different type of a challenge. Okay, we had the first game challenge. We had the you're supposed to mop this team up challenge. Okay, this is a whole different type of a challenge where it's expected to be a close game. It's expected to be down to the wire. This is, as we talk about, probably the game that's going to determine who wins the group. How can you handle that pressure? So I think it's going to be a close one. And it's going to be a fun one, and obviously hoping U.S. wins. But I could see like a 2-0 game. I know you didn't ask for my prediction, but I could see like a 2-0 with like a late goal as Netherlands is trying to tie things up, that in a counterattack or something, U.S. scores, goes up 2-0 to win the game. That's my thoughts.
Yeah,
okay.
I agree with you. This is what everyone wants to see, the U.S. play against a strong team. And let's not forget that in 2019, this was the final. It was U.S. and Netherlands. And I mean, your predictions for the next game is 2-0. In the 2019 final, it was 2-0. It was Rapinoe who scored and then Lavelle. Let's see if history repeats itself.
Yeah, I think it's going to continue the same theme you've been talking about, Renee, the entire episode, is that midfield. Netherlands plays really narrow. They play right inside the half spaces, 6 to 8 yards from the end lines. They're very packed in the middle of the field. So this is going to rely on a very tough midfield matchup. I hope that you get Lavelle back on there and we stack the midfield, because it's going to be a tough game if we come up with the same midfield we had last game. But hopefully we can get Mewis and Lavelle and other experienced midfielders on this field. So what do we manifest in this week?
Victory.
Renee?
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. Keep it simple. Just a win.
Just a win. Doesn't have to be pretty. I'm all for a nice grinded out win. Those build team chemistry and everything just as much as more in my opinion than like the easy win. So just a nice gritty team victory is my goal.
I just want minutes for Williams. That's all I want. That's all I want.
It's happening.
So any random thoughts or anything before we go? Want to plug anything that you do, Renee? You do a million things.
Well, for me personally, for anybody that's interested, you can check out, I am on all social media, all the main social media, not these new apps that are coming out. The main ones.
I can't keep up.
I cannot keep up. I have my social media limit and capacity is reached. So Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whatever. My website, reneepwashington.com. Everything's at Renee P. Washington except Twitter, which did not fit my full name, so it's Renee P. Wash. But I've been talking all things soccer and just keeping up with all the excitement. It's been fun to see whether it's Messi coming into the MLS or the Challenge Cup games getting started and how teams are looking phenomenal, by the way, in the Challenge Cup games, including Gotham with a nice win. And then also I'll be on more MSG networks and NWSL games moving forward. So I'm excited to continue to not only watch, but be able to cover and be a part of the excitement.
Yes, and go Lehigh.
Yes. That is yes. I didn't realize we had that connection.
Yeah, where I work, it's like my property ends and then Lehigh University begins.
Wow.
So I'm like right there.
Yep. When I coached there, I lived in Whitehall.
Yeah. I'm in Allentown.
Small world.
Very good. Any random thoughts, Ruby?
None for me.
Yeah, just want to say, everyone out there, balance your schedules, relax, watch the replays if you have to watch the replays, and shout out to Telemundo. They've been doing a great job covering these games so far, and very good, because it's good to have that on Peacock, where it's like $6 a month, and it makes it more accessible to people from different backgrounds and stuff like that. So I'm really excited about that as well. But all right, fans, this is the end of our show. We will be back on the weekend of the 29th to cover the U.S. Women's National Team versus the Netherlands with our guest, former Gotham FC midfielder Nicole Baxter. Super excited. Are you ready for this next matchup against the Netherlands, Renee?
Yes, and I love that you have my former teammate on here, too, Nicole Baxter.
Yes.
I am hyped up for this game, though. Looking forward to it. And if you can't watch live, DVR, or as you mentioned, other methods, whether it's Peacock or watching it back, that is your friend. But thank you guys so much for having me, and go USA.
Let's go.
Let's go.